I tell you what was really interesting was Mar-a-Lago yesterday. The biggest tech bosses in AI, in crypto, you name it, had flown in from all over the world, gave a talk at the podium and said, I'm going to put $100 billion into the US economy. I'll employ 100,000 people between now and the end of this presidency. And Trump took the stage, didn't say thank you. Think of that positivity. Think of what's actually happening in America. And I got this from taxi drivers, from bar owners, whether they voted Trump or not, a feeling that the American economy, because of confidence, is about to boom.
Ever wondered how a man labeled as a disingenuous grifter became one of Britain's most influential politicians? Nigel Farage's journey from Conservative Party outcast to Brexit mastermind is a tale of persistence, controversy, and unexpected triumphs. In this video, we'll uncover the pivotal moments that transformed Farage from a fringe figure into a political powerhouse. From his early days in UKIP to his recent alliance with Elon Musk. Prepare to be shocked by the twists and turns of Farage's career.
Yes, we had a meeting with Elon Musk.
That's you and your treasurer?
Myself and Nick Candy, my new treasurer, and I've met Musk before and we are in touch.
Yeah. You want to nationalise water. You're aware of working class concerns about how unfair things are. Look, the Conservative Party are just regurgitated Thatcherism. Reform are beginning to move into a space where you're genuinely...
This mob was tested for 14 years.
It's difficult. And you can offer easy... Some are saying easy answers to difficult problems.
Well, I tell you what, if you promise net migration of tens of millions a year and give us 1 million, that isn't an accident.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Nigel Farage's political journey began in the Conservative Party, where his staunch Euroscepticism quickly set him apart. As a young Tory, Farage found himself increasingly at odds with the party's pro-European stance. His frustration grew as he watched the Conservatives under John Major push for greater integration with the EU. Farage's outspoken nature and controversial statements soon made him a thorn in the side of the party establishment. He didn't mince words when criticizing EU policies, often using colorful language that raised eyebrows. His remarks on immigration and British sovereignty alienated him from the more moderate voices in the party. As the gap between Farage and mainstream conservatives widened, he found himself drawn to a new political movement. The UK Independence Party, UKIP, was formed in 1993 by Alan Sked, a professor at the London School of Economics. Farage saw in UKIP a vehicle for his anti-EU views and joined the party shortly after its inception. Within UKIP, Farage's political skills began to shine. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a prominent spokesperson for the party's Eurosceptic message. His ability to articulate complex issues in simple terms resonated with a growing segment of the British public who felt ignored by the political elite. Farage's persistence paid off in 2006 when he was elected leader of UKIP. This marked his first major political breakthrough, transforming him from a fringe figure to the face of British Euroscepticism.
You spoke to Elon Musk. The big chat here in Westminster while I've been away is reports of $100 million to your party. Has he pledged any money to... Are you in talks about a deal now?
That 100 million story, I mean, where the Sunday Times got that from, I have no idea. There's some revolutionary stuff here. And I'm pledged to professionalising reform. I took copious notes yesterday. I've learnt a huge amount.
And he will help, X will help reform UK at the election coming up.
There are two things we talked about. Number one, what really fascinated me were the margins by which Trump won in the 7 key swing states. And the person behind that was one Elon Musk.
Under his leadership, UKIP began to gain traction in local elections and European Parliament votes. As UKIP's influence grew, so did Farage's profile in British politics. He leveraged media appearances and debates to spread his message, often clashing with mainstream politicians. His confrontational style and unapologetic stance on controversial issues made him a polarizing figure, but it also earned him a dedicated following. Farage's rise from conservative outcast to UKIP maverick set the stage for his growing influence in British politics. His journey was far from over, and the coming years would see him play an increasingly significant role in shaping the nation's future. From outcast to kingmaker, Nigel Farage's transformation was about to shake British politics to its core. As UKIP's popularity surged, the mainstream parties faced a choice: adapt or be left behind. The stage was set for a political showdown that would change the course of British history. Under Farage's leadership, UKIP's influence grew rapidly. The party's membership skyrocketed from around 15,000 in 2010 to over 40,000 by 2015. This surge reflected a growing discontent with mainstream politics and a rising appetite for Farage's brand of Euroscepticism.
He's already given me considerable help.
With targeting voters who can't
Understanding the process from start to finish, reaching disaffected communities who frankly feel there's no point voting for anybody. He hasn't fully decided whether he will. If he does, it wouldn't be anything like the ludicrous telephone numbers quoted in the Sunday Times. But the most important thing is this. This is what Musk said to me. He said, British politics now has a uni party. Got to get them registered. You've got to know who they are. You've got to get them to vote. Inevitably, given all the press stories, we did discuss money. Now, that's a negotiation we would go back and have again.
But it wasn't just about numbers. UKIP was making real electoral gains. In 2013, UKIP achieved a breakthrough in local elections, winning over 140 council seats. This success sent shockwaves through the political establishment. Suddenly, Farage's party couldn't be dismissed as a fringe movement anymore. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the other parties knew it. Farage's media strategy played a crucial role in this ascent. He became a familiar face on television, radio, and in print. His LBC radio show gave him a direct line to the public, allowing him to spread his message unfiltered. Farage's ability to articulate complex issues in simple, provocative terms resonated with many voters who felt ignored by the political elite. But not everyone was thrilled with Farage's rising star. The establishment pushed back hard against his anti-EU rhetoric. They labeled him a populist, a rabble-rouser, even a danger to British politics. Yet the more they attacked, the more Farage's support seemed to grow. As the 2015 general election approached, Farage's influence reached new heights. His slogan, "Take Back Control," captured the imagination of voters who felt their sovereignty was slipping away to Brussels. This simple, powerful message put enormous pressure on then Prime Minister David Cameron. Faced with the threat of UKIP siphoning off Conservative votes, Cameron made a fateful decision. He promised a referendum on EU membership if the Conservatives won the election. It was a gamble intended to neutralize Farage and UKIP. But it would have far-reaching consequences that no one could have predicted. With the referendum now on the table, Farage had achieved his primary political goal, but the real battle was just beginning. As the Brexit campaign loomed, Farage geared up for the fight of his life, one that would test his political skills like never before. June 23, 2016, the day Britain went to the polls. As voting booths closed, a nation held its breath. Few could have predicted the seismic shift about to rock the foundations of British politics, or the unlikely figure standing at its epicenter. The Brexit referendum campaign was intense, with both sides pulling out all the stops. But as the final days approached, the polls told a clear story. Remain was in the lead. A YouGov survey just before the vote showed 52% favoring staying in the EU, with only 48% supporting leave. It seemed Farage's dream of Brexit was slipping away. But Farage wasn't one to go down without a fight. His campaign tactics, particularly the infamous Breaking Point poster, sparked fierce debate. The image, showing a long line of refugees, was condemned by many as inflammatory and divisive. George Osborne called it vile, comparing it to Nazi propaganda. Even Boris Johnson, a fellow Leave campaigner, distanced himself from it. Yet for Farage, the controversy was fuel for the fire. He doubled down on his message, focusing on immigration and sovereignty, issues that resonated deeply with certain segments of the population. His grassroots campaign targeted areas often overlooked by mainstream politicians. In towns and cities across Britain, Farage connected with voters who felt left behind by globalization and EU policies. As the final hours ticked away, tension mounted. The political establishment seemed confident of a Remain victory. But Farage sensed something different on the ground. The energy at his rallies, the conversations he had with ordinary Britons, it all pointed to an undercurrent the polls weren't capturing. Then came the moment of truth. As the results rolled in, jaws dropped across the nation. Against all odds, Leave had won. Farage's gamble had paid off spectacularly. In a triumphant speech, he declared, "We have fought for our country and we have won." The shock victory sent tremors through British politics. For Farage, it was the culmination of decades of political struggle. But as the dust settled, questions arose. What would Brexit actually look like? And what role would Farage play in shaping Britain's future outside the EU? The referendum might have been won, but the battle for Britain's future was far from over. As the dust settled on Brexit, many assumed Nigel Farage would fade into political obscurity. After all, he'd achieved his lifelong goal, but Farage had other plans. What followed was a masterclass in political reinvention that left both supporters and critics stunned. Initially, Farage did step back from the front lines. He resigned as UKIP leader in July 2016, declaring his work was done. The media speculated wildly about his future. Would he retire to a quiet life of pints and fishing? Or was this just a tactical retreat? As it turned out, Farage was far from finished with British politics. His first move was to reinvent himself as a media personality. Farage's LBC radio show became a platform for his controversial views, allowing him to maintain his public profile without the constraints of party leadership. He perfected the art of the soundbite, delivering pithy commentary that kept him in the headlines. But Farage's political ambitions weren't satisfied by media appearances alone. In 2019, he stormed back onto the political scene with the Brexit Party. The party's rapid rise shocked the establishment. In the European Parliament elections that year, the Brexit Party topped the polls, proving Farage's enduring appeal to a significant portion of the electorate. This success set the stage for Farage's next act. As the 2024 general election approached, he made a strategic move that caught many off guard. Taking over leadership of Reform UK from Richard Tice, Farage positioned himself to capitalize on growing discontent with traditional parties. His timing was impeccable, tapping into a wave of voter frustration. The results were nothing short of remarkable. Reform UK's strong showing in the polls, reaching as high as 25%, demonstrated Farage's ability to connect with disillusioned voters. His message resonated particularly well with those who felt let down by both major parties, cementing his status as a key figure in British politics. Farage's post-Brexit evolution wasn't without controversy. The Coutts Bank scandal, where internal documents suggested he was pandering to racists, became a rallying point for his supporters. Farage skillfully turned the incident to his advantage, portraying it as evidence of establishment bias against him and his followers. As Farage continues to shape British politics, one thing is clear: underestimating him has always been a mistake. His journey from Brexit figurehead to media personality to resurgent political force proves his adaptability and enduring influence. Love him or loathe him, Nigel Farage remains a central figure in the ongoing debate about Britain's future.